sound on, specifically to influence my throat chakra, which we all know I don't need. Just kidding. But you know, the assistants could always help. Okay. So today I'm going to try to work more on eye contact. I'm using the phone to record this, so let's see how this goes. So the topic that I felt guided to talk about today is duality. I may or may not have talked about it briefly somewhere, and I talk about it a lot on social media. Basically, what duality is pretty much represented by the Yin Yang symbol, where there is a circle with two halves that are, I'll just draw it out. Duality implies two, and Yin Yang, I should have done this before, I didn't really think about that. This is Yin Yang, the Yin Yang symbol. If we're using terms such as good and bad, let's say good is the white. Inherently, there is some darkness, some bad in the good. It's surrounded by good in order to be perceived as bad. I don't know if that makes sense. So in the dark, there's also good inherent in it as well. They're two halves of the same thing. It's not really like the physical symbol is the main point of it, but the point is that, let's say, the way I would say it is there is a scale or just a line, which we would say this pen is a line. On this end is the bottom, this end is the top. And it works this way because I know it's mirroring, so in my world it would be like this. So basically we'd call the bottom negative, bad, and we'd call the top positive, superior, better in some contexts. So what you see though is it's still one object, it's still one line, one singularity. And when you think of terms of left and right, you can only see left because right exists. If it was only like, if you could only see what makes the right side of this, in order to really perceive a left, you'd have to put a little tick in the middle so that you could divide it into two to perceive the left again. That might not have been a very good analogy, I don't know. The point is that there are two parts of the whole. We're brought up to believe that these two things are separate. So it's been coming up in conversation a lot lately, kind of, I guess, breaking down the illusion about it. I think that's things that we are really interested in, trying to bridge how we can bridge our understandings to the world. Not our understandings, obviously, but, you know, consciousness. And I think duality is a basic starting point because in every situation you're presented an option between at least two things. So if you're walking down a road and there's another road, you now have the option to go to this road, but what makes you decide left or right? On this left side it might be darker, there might be just a dirt road. In your mind you create a negative meaning about that, and you may believe that because there's no pavement that you're going to run into something negative. So your mind might tell you it's safer to go the right route, to go on the route with pavement. It's clearly the most traveled route, and people have even laid out a path for you, so you're gonna be safe. So it's better for you to take that route, and that's the justification. Not like if, you know, it's a bad thing or anything, but these are just the little ways that your mind works in making a decision in every moment. So you could consider that your mind is always deciding between left and right, up, down, good or bad. Yeah, you can always consider that your mind is always choosing. And when you go down to the neuroscience of things, that's pretty much what this all is in the micro sense. So zoomed in into our brain, we have neural pathways and a neuron that travel. And each decision you make, each new decision that's made creates a new pathway. And that's why the first 7 years of your life is very crucial for your personality and for basically the person that you're going to become. So if you were so used to taking this specific path, let's say walking to school, you take the same pathway every single day. In your mind, imagine it just like clay. Now, when you step on clay, it's still moist, so it's going to imprint your foot. So each day you walk on this path, your mind is basically doing the same thing, but it's doing it on this clay, moldable brain of yours. And each time that you go down this path, your brain makes more of an indentation in the footsteps and the path that it's going. So these are basically like the grooves in your brain. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it's an analogy at least. The deeper the groove in your brain, that is signifying how much of a habit this is, how ingrained this habit is, and how much you do it. So if you try new habits, you're going to almost feel a little resistance, because it's like it snowed 6 feet, and now in order for you to get from here to there, you had to plow. You had to shovel the snow. You shovel the snow from here to your car, and so it's easy to get from here to your car. Now you go to your car whenever you want. At least it's not an issue anymore while the snow is here. But then you want to go to the store, and let's just say for the story's purpose that you don't have a car now. I guess no. I don't know. Now I just ruined the analogy. But I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say is now that you want to take a new path, you have to shovel it again. And the shoveling is annoying. It's hard, especially when it's so high. You're going to probably have to do a sloppy shoveling for the first couple of feet, and then before you get real deep in it, so that you can efficiently get from here to there without any issues. So that is symbolic of when we're trying new things. And every time you try something new, you will notice that your thought is going to be one of either approval or of resistance. And resistance usually stemmed in fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of anything. So that's the duality presented in this new choice that you're making. So it's important to understand duality, because you have to recognize and take a step back from who you think you are. At least, a couple of times a day, because honestly, we have been brought up to have all these beliefs on what's good and what's bad, so much so that we don't really think about what we're doing anymore. We're on autopilot, and I've talked about this before. How do you really know that you're making the best decision for yourself when you're caught up in you're caught up in concepts such as duality? And I say caught up as in you're not transcending it. So when you transcend it, you understand that it's a tool, that it can help you to navigate your reality and to figure out how to live a better life. It's not something to label things and to just sit on your high horse and say, this is good and this is bad. Everything that's good here is mine, and I want nothing that's bad. You're not going to do that. You can't do that. The best thing is to transcend duality and to understand that you're going to receive contrast in everything. And that's pretty much a gift, to be honest, because if you were to just be positive all the time, then what is your baseline? How do you really feel good about anything, though, when you're just always happy? Like, there's nothing to compare to. You can, I guess, you could thrive in that environment if you're, I don't know, I guess there's a universe where that might be a thing where, like, forever you would have bliss. But, wouldn't that just be tiring? Like, what, don't you want to be tired sometimes? To have that rest. Now there's some points I feel like I might not be understood on here, but if you would like me to reinterpret it, just let me know and I'll be happy to. I'm learning to just go with the flow and learn that you kind of know what I'm saying, especially if you're attracted to the video. So why it's important to understand this duality? Because when you understand that there's good inherent in the bad and bad inherent in the good, then you can detach from these meanings. And when you know that your words are powerful, and when you understand things like the law of attraction, you can then learn to perceive things in a lighter way rather than just being in a defeatist victim mentality, which the world has literally brought us up into. My dog keeps trying to mess with me right now. So you guys all know the story where there was a guy who had a series of unfortunate events which would be perceived unfortunate from the people on the outside. But for him, whenever prompted, whenever asked, or like, that's terrible or that's great, he would say maybe. So he would never really define things if he didn't have to. So things that look like they would be bad to happen to him ended up being blessings in disguise, and the things that ended up seeming to happen in his favor sometimes became something that was a hardship or not what it seemed. In that moment of not defining things, it placed this man in the space to better approach these life situations, giving him the ability to be more present. And we all know when you're in a state of presence, you are in a state of allowing, which is where your intuition will guide you to your desires, to what you would perceive the right answer or your preferred answer, preferred outcome. So that's why it's important to not label things as good or bad. And if you do, it's just showing you that you can change up your language a little. Ask yourself, why is it bad? Why is it a bad thing? And could this be perceived as a good thing in any way? And you would be surprised. You'd be a lot more ready to live life when you live in this way, because you're not making your choices based off the fear of what if this happens, what if that happens, this is good, this is bad, this is terrible. You learn to act from more of a space of, do I have control over this in the physical reality? And usually if the case is no, that's when you know not to overexert yourself anymore and to surrender. So write it down, pray about it, meditate about it, and then let it go. Don't dwell on the feeling of lack or scarcity or worry. Like I said, duality is a really good tool to transcend the programming that doesn't serve us anymore.